Hello everyone, this is Brett. I'm just going to be talking about scope here for a second with you guys. Just kind of starting out, we had just watched a video from Kyle Simpson about scope, and essentially he was looking at how scope is contained on the global as well as the local scale, and how you can have different levels. You have functions within other functions and the like. So in this case, he was kind of starting with the basics of the fact that this is a compiled language. JavaScript is a compiled language, so it actually does a cursory run through of the JavaScript prior to actually going through and executing it, and that the execution actually has two separate parts. So I kind of took some notes on that and was looking through that. So in this case, there are left-hand side and there is right-hand side. And essentially, he's labeling those the target and a source. And that's those are run separately at separate times. So in this case, he gave us some example documentation. You got this essentially the left side would be the side over here, left-hand side, and that actually in this case is the target, like he's saying, and then the opposite side would be the source. Now that doesn't really apply in the case of a function. That is just read right off the bat for the left-hand side. So in this case, looking through here, he was basically talking about the fact that first variable foo would be run, and then just logged that that is in fact a something that's being set aside as a variable foo itself, and then it would go down into the function and run that, but again on the left side to start with. So then once it does that, kind of pass through to log what is actually in there, then it goes through and executes for essentially the second half of that, and does the right hand side. So I kind of just did a little example here using some different variables, and kind of looked at it, going through that as well. So just starting out with the left hand side information, and then once it kind of catalogs all those different keywords, or not keywords, but categorizes all of the variables that you've entered in, then it and the functions as well, and then it kind of goes back through and looks at the source side over here, and actually runs that code. And then later on in this session, he kind of went through declarations and expressions and the difference between those. Declarations are just kind of more simple items, kind of like this cheese is a declaration here. It's pretty simple, straightforward. Whereas expressions, and that takes place at the global scale, whereas expressions, they actually have, he explained it that basically functions then will not be the first word in an expression. So it'll actually be later on that line that function will appear, and then that will automatically create this function without having to kind of set up a separate variable area like was seen previously up here. And then once once this is done, this actually is on a local level at that point. It is not on a global scale then. So it can't be accessed from the global scale, as kind of is illustrated here, where bar, right, you'd think since it's right here, it should be on the global scale, but it's actually not, since it's part of an expression instead of a declaration in this case. And that's basically what he's illustrating here with this error message next to bar being called here. Also kind of went through lexical scope and dynamic scope, which he didn't go through a ton, but suffice to say that he did just kind of went into some information on the lexical side, and kind of gave this illustration of a building that starts at the bottom floor and works its way up until it gets to the final global scale. And just wanted to put in your head essentially that it will keep going until it finds what it's looking for, and if it doesn't find what it's looking for, it will go ahead and create a variable essentially for you in that case. If it doesn't find anything once it reaches the global scale, but it'll go all the way up through it to start with. And then he also went through a couple ways to get around lexical scoping, and then those being the eval and with keywords. Now, both of those he basically stated that they were not worth using, as they would either slow your code down and make it run sluggish, or it would be a issue as far as the width goes, as it creates a whole new lexical scope at that time. So I think that apparently that kind of creates a leak, I guess is what he said. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but it also I believe would slow it down as well. So he kind of went over that as well, and kind of how that functions here in the code was kind of interesting to me. But obviously he kind of stated that you should not use it. So this with here. All right. Well, I just wanted to go through some of those concepts and kind of give my thoughts out there on them, and kind of my understanding as he put it. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.